got to understand that when the FTC or some state regulatory body looks at something, they look at the entire chain. They look from the upfront advertisements, wherever the source is, all the way to the back end fulfillment. So anything that touches along that chain is liable.
My case could have been way worse, and I think Greg would agree. My case could have been way, way worse if some of the things we were doing we hadn't done.
If you know, because you're involved with the company, you know, or you should have known that the company was violating the law, okay? Then they can bring an action against you as a key employee or contractor of the company. If you're the company or contractor that's up there creating all the content, and you think, oh, I'm not culpable if the company gets hit, I can just hide behind them, you can't do that.
Welcome back to Don't Say That, but today is a big day. Guys, the book is launched, I think. Or it launches like at 12 o'clock. I don't know. Go to don'tsaythat.com/go is the link I think they came up with. Or the link in the bio below. I don't know. I'm just pumped, excited. This book literally was one of the most painful things I've ever done in my life. It was a lot of hard work. I'm so glad we put it out there. So Greg, virtual high five to you, my friend. Thank you for getting this book done. Guys, go watch the sales video. It's really funny. At the time that we're filming this, Greg's not even seen it. Greg, I'm gonna send it to you. It's kind of funny. We tried to make this whole topic.
There outtakes, like you just have outtakes of me talking, and I
do. Greg, you remember when I walked onto the set and I tried to shake your hand and you did not.
Oh, and I was like,
so that's it's in the video. it's kind of funny. Guys, we're gonna keep the podcast short today and hit a topic right head on. Short, because we got a book launch, and so I want you to focus on just going and buy the damn book, okay? Come on. So, you know what? Just support us, for crying out loud. Support me, all right? It's been 2 years. I'm taking all my pain. I'm turning it into your gain. And this is one of those books that you don't just buy one copy of. You buy 10, you buy 25. You buy one for every employee of yours, every partner of yours, every client, and you make sure everyone knows it, because the topic that we're going to talk about today is, are contractors and freelancers liable to be sued by the FTC? So not only you as a company can get sued for what they do, but turns out, yes, the answer is yes, contractors and freelancers can also get sued if the main company gets sued. So you need the book. You need to know what you don't know, and you need to know what you should be looking out for. Grab the book, please. Link below. Help us out, support us, and protect yourself and all those that you love. All right, we got a shorter podcast also because we deal with an attorney, and he's busy. So attorney Greg's having a bit of a crazy time. He's protecting a company from getting sued by a state AG. And so I told him, I was like, what is it like to go through a day where you just talk to pissed off government officials all the time?
What I tell you, what I say when you said that, I was like, it's hard when you're always getting beat up by bullies because they've got 12 attorneys to you.
Yeah.
Actually, there were only 3 on this. It was me against 3 other attorneys today.
Only 3, yeah. I still remember the scene in Aaron Brockovich where they're walking in, like there's that big firm and it's just like the little firm, and he just like grabs the assistant and grabs someone else and he's like, come in and just sit there and don't say anything. They never introduce themselves, but it's just so that there could be 5 attorneys against 5 people. And I remember thinking, wow, that makes sense. That's a power game to be played. So Greg, we had an episode recently where you brought on one of your past clients and it was like, can affiliates get sued? And it was a popular episode, and turns out, yes, affiliates can, and they do. Now, I've been hearing from more and more people lately. They're like, well, I get paid as a contractor. I just do phone sales. I just do, copywriting. I just do this. Like, it's like, I'm the little guy. I make, a couple $100,000 a year. I can't get sued. And I'm looking at them. I know of one case, specifically the Agora case, where the copywriter got named in the case and got sued. And I'm like, I don't know. So you had a direct answer for me. So Greg, can someone who's a freelancer or a copywriter working for a company that gets sued, can they get dragged into that?
Yeah, absolutely. It happens all the time. There's 50 years of case law that talks about copywriters and ad agencies that get brought into FTC lawsuits. So you got to understand that when the FTC or some state regulatory body looks at something, they look at the entire chain. They look from the upfront advertisements, wherever the source is, all the way to the back end fulfillment. So anything that touches along that chain is liable. So yesterday I did a webinar with 1,200 affiliates, and I explained, like you just mentioned, about the affiliate liabilities. They're all contractors, most affiliates are contractors. So you think it's a different law. It's not a different law. But Anik asked me, he's like, what about ad agencies and contractors? And I was like, I threw out a half a dozen cases where, at least at the top of my head, where I talk, that where the FTC has brought an action against either a contractor or an advertising agency. And so the case that I mentioned first and foremost was a case that was in August of 2017. The FTC brought an action against an ad agency by the name of Synergex LLC. They're located in Maine. They did not offer, they were the ones that put together the campaign for the underlying product, but they didn't produce or sell the underlying product. They just put the campaign together, and they were the ones that got sued. Not only were they, as a company, Synergex LLC, but the two owners, Charlie Fusco and Ronald Yaner, were also sued by the FTC because of that. And, if you go back and you look at the complaint, there are two main issues in that complaint. They say, number one, there's 50 years worth of established case law that allows the FTC to sue the advertising agency or contractors based upon their deceptive roles and their involvement in promoting that offer. Number two, the companies that even try to say, well, I don't call myself an ad agency, I'm just a contractor, that they don't say, hey, I'm not an ad agency. They're still held responsible for their illegal acts and practices as a contractor. So if you walk through the merits of that case, what they were offering was an underlying supplements. They were offering that the ad sold supplements that the ad agency didn't sell. They were just the ad agency. The supplements came under scrutiny as well. It's a cognition and flexi supplements that obviously were misleading as to what they did, but the ads were so predominant that they went after the ad agency, and they're not unique. 2 years ago, I directly dealt with an FTC investigation in Georgia, and that had to do with an ad agency that was promoting some doctors that were talking about how to heal, how to help prevent or cure and do things with cancer and other related treatments. And they were doing live events and they were selling things on the telephone, but they brought in the ad agency into that investigation too, because they're the ones that set the campaign up in the first place. Because the doctors were just like, we just did what the ad agency told us. We're just doctors. And that's the problem, right? You think you're shielded from liability because you're the advertising agency. Hey, I'm not telling them what to do. Of course you are. You're the one that's building the campaign. And that's the way the FTC looks at it. I'm just a contractor. Doesn't matter.
Does it also make an impact because they're earning percentage of, right? Agencies are earning percentage of spend. The more they're able to spend, the more they earn. And so they're incentivized by creating revenue. So that kind of ties them in as part. It's kind of like you're a partner of the offer.
Yeah, they become quasi partners because, and I just
Yeah.
dealt with this with another ad agency just 2 weeks ago. And I had a call yesterday with the client because they've changed the commission of the ad agency based upon a percentage of the profitability from the campaign during the period of time to a bonus structure based on things. So now it's all a 1099 arm's length transaction based upon a contract that's not a rev share split. Because a rev share split just makes it look like they're just partners. They may not be partners on paper, but if you look like a duck, you quack like a duck, you poop like a duck, the FTC is going to say you're a duck. And if you're taking a percentage of the business like that, they're going to be like, you're a partner of this. So you can situate yourselves in a way that it helps provide some defense. But if you're the company or contractor that's up there creating all the content and you think, oh, I'm not culpable if the company gets hit, I can just hide behind them. You can't do that. I mean, even in the Zurich's case, which is a real estate offer, the FTC ended up suing some of the top telemarketing agents or contractors from Zurich's. And so like you're not insulated just because you're a contractor or you're an agency. And you have just as much liability because you're along that chain as anybody else.
Yeah. So Do you know of any particular people or agencies or contractors or freelancers who have been sued who maybe weren't earning on a revenue basis? I mean, do employees get brought into cases and they're just earning a salary? And in those cases, are they just named in the case, or do they have to pay a fine as well?
Well, in the response case, they named key employees. They weren't owners of the business,
Okay.
and they were just key employees, and they were named personally on that, and they were personally part of the settlement that was reached.
So they
So
had to pay something
they had to
too.
pay something as well.
So let me ask, what makes the difference? Because, like, for example, in my case, thankfully, thank God, none of my executives were named. We had a couple of experts got drawn into the case, as you know, but no vendors, no affiliates per se, no agencies, and definitely not key people. What makes the difference? So how come in that response case they brought all these extra
Yeah.
people in, and in my case they didn't?
Three main points that they will look at. And I'm not saying these are the only 3 points, but these are the three that I've identified when key employees or contractors get pulled into it. Number one, are they treated like an owner, right? Are they paid compensation wise like an owner? Is it based upon profitability? They look at that pretty intently.
Okay. So
Number
again, goes back to that percentage of that. That's a
they
big
will look at
trigger.
that pretty
Okay.
close, right? It's
Okay.
not a saving grace, not a get out of jail card if you're not, but they will look with more, eyes that are critical than if you're paid like just a W-2 and you're just have a salary.
Hmm.
Now, number two, they look at the control and management of the company itself. So if you exert control over a specific department or area and you're relevant and material to that area, then they'll come after you even if you're an employee. If you're like, hey, you're the main person that's over this, and you're the vice president of sales, you are the vice president of content or whatever it is, you're the ad copy provider. They'll look at say, okay, you know what, a lot of violations here based upon their advertising or their sales. You were the controlling figure on this. We're going to go after you on this. So they'll do that. Number two, control. Number three has to do with how it's perceived to the world on your involvement with them, right? So number three has to do with how you're holding yourself out, and also how you're involved with the entire scope of things. And so what I mean by that, let me explain. I'm sorry, I'm not being very clear. If you know, because you're involved with the company, or you should have known that the company was violating the law, okay? Then they can bring an action against you as a key employee or contractor of the company. So your example in your case, the two experts, as you call them, part of the argument of the FTC was, okay, one, we don't think they were really compliant in this, but they should have known or knew. The argument is they knew, but they didn't. But they should have known that you were violating law. I don't know how we settled the case, but if the FTC thinks you should or should have known, they'll go after you. Now, let me give you the most prime example of this, and it's going to blow your minds. Merchant processing. Contractors, right? We have a contract agreement that you'll process payments for me, but there's a litany of cases where the FTC will go after the merchant processors because they say they knew or should have known the company was deceptive in their advertising practices. And if you're a key employee and you're put in a position as the CFO or CEO or president of the company, and you've got a whole list of, like in the Automators LLC case, when they had 70 to 80% of their customer support calls were complaints, and they knew about that, that's why they were included individually in that case as well, because there was evidence to show they knew or should have known there were problems with the marketing aligning with the fulfillment. So those three, right? How they're paid, how they manage, and how they hold themselves out there if they knew or should have known that the underlying business was violating the law and they didn't do anything about it.
Got it. So, okay, so contractors, freelancers, even employees, and I didn't expect it to go down that road, can get pulled into, can have to pay fines. And then, I feel like, look, when you take a founder or an entrepreneur down, so my name being attached to it, I'm going to go create my own company in the future. Again, I don't think I plan on working for anybody. And so I have a little bit more control over that. But as an employee, as a key executive, your name gets that taint. The next time you apply for a job anywhere, you're taking all that baggage with you.
Right.
So if you're an employee at a company, you should take it pretty damn seriously what they're doing. I did not know that. This is the first time I'm hearing it live that an
So
employee can get
this
dragged
is
in.
one last thing I want to make sure we cover before we move on for this, because I
Yeah.
get this all the time for clients. It's like, well, what's my liability on this? I mean, I can just do this. I can step away from this. I don't have any liability for this.
Mm,
I could be an advertising agency, and if the underlying company gets hit, it's the underlying company. But as I mentioned, those three elements are there. But here's the main issue. If you know you're an ad agency for somebody who isn't following the law, and you've talked to them and you know they're not compliant, they're not following all the things we've talked about with earnings claims and lifestyle claims and testimonial use, and they're doing it wrong, and you try to convince yourself that you're insulated from that, you're fooling yourself, because they'll come after you just as much as anything else. Just like when we had the affiliate that came on and said they got hit, you'll get hit too, because you're a part of that. I have a client that gave up millions of dollars for a partner that they were the upfront advertiser for, and were not the company they were advertising for was not willing to make changes. On 4 separate occasions, terminated that relationship, gave up millions of dollars, but those companies in 4 separate occasions were all sued by the FTC. My client wasn't sued by the FTC. Still in business, still profitable, still doing really well, but they made good decisions because they recognized, even as an advertising agency, the underlying product, if it's off, that can pull them into, and I'm not joking. We went to dinner last week in Miami, Florida, and they toasted me and said, thank you for doing this. Because if we didn't have you, we would have kept on doing business and we would have been shut down 15 years ago. But now here we're enjoying life. We're in Miami and we're doing well. And it's because we listened to your advice on doing this right. And that's because they identified, even as a contractor or an ad agency, they could have gotten pulled easy like that. The 3 of the 4 cases, they got CIDs, walked away without any settlements on those cases. That's unique. That's unique.
That's super unique. That's very unique. And so what a great episode to have had today to expand our own market, Greg, of the people that should buy the damn book. All right. So if you work at a company that you think might be doing dicey things, if you're a contractor freelancer, at least look, I've been saying this, and Greg has heard me say this. We can't force you to become compliant. I can tell you my story till I'm blue in the face, and I can beat the drum of saying nothing you're making right now is worth what happens if you get caught being non-compliant. But make it a choice. At least know the rules. Read the book, and if you choose to take the risk, that's okay. We choose to take risks all the time. That's a you thing, right? That's not our suggestion. Our suggestion, of course, is get compliant. But I want you to understand that the risk is around, and people are not told these things. Look, when the cases that Greg mentioned, when they get published, no one ever talks, no one reads deep enough to know who got dragged into it. Who are the other people? And there you go. You never see that key executives and contractors and agencies and freelancers got brought in. I know for a fact now, I've heard from people that are phone sales, on phone sales, or that do contract copywriting. And then also know how Greg spoke in the sense of talk to an attorney to make sure your contract with that company. There are ways you can do your bonus plans and things to help bring down that partnership feeling that reduces your risk. It doesn't eliminate it, but it reduces it. So get the book. That's at don'tsaythat.com. You can go to the main URL and click to the book, or go to don'tsaythat.com/go, G-O, go. That'll get the book. Get multiple copies. This is the unique type of book. I've never had a book where I sold before, where on the sales page I had incentives to upgrade to get more copies. But this one makes sense. If you've got contractors, freelancers writing for you, you got people doing your social media, writing your copy, you need to give them a copy of this book, and you need to document the fact that you did that, because the other thing I've been learning from Greg is that as a company, it helps to show that you proactively have been teaching, training, and implementing compliance. And thank God that did help us to a degree as well, because we were doing it. And I tell you, man, I keep telling people, My case could have been way worse, and I think Greg would agree. My case could have been way, way worse if some of the things we were doing we hadn't done. I think our case it went the way it did because of those things. So with that said, Greg, I know you've got to go. Everybody else, we don't want to talk more this week because you need to buy the book, all right? And if you don't buy the book, and not enough of you buy the book, I'm going to cancel the damn podcast. I promise you that. I've already taken enough of Greg's time. So get the book. Support us in this mission. I've been saying lately, Greg, I don't know if you've heard me say this, but it's my new saying. I say, if you want to be a giant, you got to go compliant. So
compliance revolution.
The compliance revolution. There you go. Greg, thank you very much, my friend. And to the rest of you guys, grab the book. We'll see you soon. Love you guys. When life pushes you, stand straight, smile, and push it the heck back. And if you're a contractor, freelancer, employee, agency, clean up. All right? Get the book. Talk to you guys later. Bye.